Hi, everybody. It's Tim Hagen, and welcome to another video podcast. And today we're going to talk marketing with a special guest from Dun & Bradstreet, and we're going to introduce Gino Palozzi. And so today we're going to have a very interactive discussion and talk about some of the typical problems and solutions in the marketplace. Gino, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
I lead and I'm the SVP of marketing at Dun & Bradstreet, and we're focused specifically my group on the sales and marketing solutions that we offer that provide the data, the insights, and the activation for companies to go out there and really reach the right buyer at the right time through the right channel, if I had to sum it up.
Cool. So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing currently in the marketplace, especially with everything that's occurred over the last 24 months?
Yeah, things have changed, right? They've changed over my 25-year career, and they've changed certainly probably in an accelerated way of the last 2 years. One of the things that we're seeing with everybody kind of working from home through the pandemic is people are a little harder to reach, right? It's specifically in the B2B space that we play in, right? So not everybody's working from an office, everybody's kind of working odd hours. But what they're really trying to challenge by is, there's this need and desire for people to be to understand who they are, right, and who their customers are.
Mm-hmm.
So this need to personalize is really important, right? There's a desire and an appetite, and people expect it, right? They expect it from the B2Cs they're working with, and there's no difference. B2Bs are still selling to people, to individuals, and personalization is becoming really important and difficult. And one of the reasons is we continue to see challenges with, the flip side of personalization is the privacy. As we see privacy starting to become more and more important and on top of mind, to know people, to understand who they are requires you to kind of understand and collect data on them. And not everybody wants that type of, and wants the option and the preferences that they expect. So privacy is kind of challenged with the need to also try to be personalized. And then the last challenge that I think we as marketers have seen kind of just continue to explode is just proliferation of data as well as the tools that we are using, right? So we've seen thousands of MarTech tools put out there, hundreds and growing number of sales tech tools, what we call RevTech. And it's creating some additional challenges to kind of reduce the complexity that those tools were intending to solve for, but with more, it's creating real problems.
So how do you go about solving some of that? I mean, you've talked a lot about personalization, privacy, proliferation. How do you specifically solve that? And what are some potential stories or case studies you could share with our audience?
Sure. I think when you think about personalization, you have to recognize that, as I mentioned, that you are selling not to companies. I've always believed in my career that you're selling to the individual buyers and the people within those companies. So understanding who the people are that you want to go engage with, and not just try to reach and spray and pray to the companies that you're going after. So we, in my own team, right, has a pretty robust set of capabilities, leveraging our own tools, right? And we look at really understanding the people that are having the highest propensity within those companies. So we identify the companies that have propensity, but then we say, who do we believe we bring a very strong value prop to? Mm-hmm. I think that knowledge of the buyer persona, as many people call it, right? And then you get into knowing and tracking and working with them to see who you're reaching and who's actually engaging. And even those that are not engaging, who are showing intent. So we try to really understand their behavior, both in the signals that they're sending to us directly, as well as kind of looking out and seeing the third-party signals that we're tracking through intent. So that helps us understand like who's in the market. And we try to also then let them kind of go through their own journey, right? We don't try to guess what that journey should be. We let them kind of chart their own path or their own journey and engage as we go along with the people that we think are showing those signals. So that's how we've been tackling it in our own house. I think from the privacy is obviously you need to be very cognizant of, CCPA, GDPR, especially if you're global or where you're doing business type regulations. And we are very cognizant in tracking things around people's privacy and preferences. And we do that in a way so that no matter where we want to engage them through whatever channel, that we do that in a more centralized way, which is really important and challenging to most companies. So whether we're having our SDRs outreach or whether we're having people that are sending emails, they all understand the preferences that we need to respect. And you can't be tracking that, or it's very hard to track that in 5, 6 different channels.
Sure.
Yeah, and the proliferation, I think, looking for tools that work well together. Companies don't want these, independent tools that don't take advantage of all the tools that are already invested in. Most of the larger companies we work with have quite amount of investment in their tools, and you
Right.
need to be able to play nice in the sandbox and integrate and identify those partners, whether it's our tools that integrate with those, or as a marketer myself, making sure that the tools that are fundamental to our demand gen engine are going to work together with whatever tools we bring in.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's too many tools? Because as you know, I've talked to a number of people at your company, and it's
Yep.
interesting that making sense of all the sales tech, all the marketing tools out there, that's got to be a challenge for corporate clients today, especially in a B2B environment, because they come out every single day.
Yeah. Too many tools. I think there's a lot of tools that are not used to their fullest. I think the number is something, Tim, around like 60% of marketing teams have over 20 of these tools in their environment. And what that presents is, you think that those tools are designed to work well together. They don't always.
Right.
But more importantly, what I think that creates is actually added work. I think people, the correlation of the more tools you have means you're actually doing and working harder.
Right.
So I think that's a really interesting dichotomy of like you're building in out this stack that is supposed to save you time and drive better efficiencies, but in some cases it's actually costing people their time. And time is, as we all know, the most important resource we all have, especially as we're working so hard in this environment.
So walk us through, you've identified, the 3 Ps, you've talked about some of the challenges with tools. How do you go about, what are some of your specific solutions you provide clients, by name, if you happen to have the opportunity to cite a case study or a story, because it's really interesting when you think about what companies are going through today with the different tools and making sense of all of it. It almost can be overwhelming. Walk us through maybe, how you go about specifically working with a client, some specific products or services you provide, and how that's gone about helping your clients.
Yeah, I think the one that we're kind of hitting on here is something that we just announced back in May. It's D&B RevUp ABX, and ABX is account-based experiences, but it's really a solution that was not meant to be specific for ABM, but certainly to support these account-based strategies that B2Bs have. And the solution at its core has a CDP, a customer data platform. And what it also is intended to do is to really understand and unify your data as a core set of from multiple systems of record, right? Where you're storing things in the CRM, or you're storing things in maybe a marketing automation platform. It can have many sources of your own data, but the CDP should also be able, and the RevUp ABX does ingest data, and you can pull data from our third-party data to augment what you're doing. And to help you really build those audiences, that is the starting point, right? Without a good understanding of who your customers are, who your prospects are, in one unified place, it makes it very difficult to operate in an omni-channel way. And RevUp ABX does bring that together with a CDP at its core. What it also does is it allows you to syndicate that audience that you've identified and even done some analysis around as shown propensity or people that you want to upsell to, whatever that audience is, and syndicate it through the channels that you need to go and activate. And what we did when we announced RevUp ABX was to recognize that sales and marketers think channel. So as a leader in marketing, I don't necessarily think about, capability of a product or MarTech. I think about how do I improve my performance in my email channel or through my sales channel or through my web engagement, and certainly through paid media where we spend a lot of our money. So we've designed that product to not just bring your data together and bring you the sophistication to target and analyze who you want to go after, but to make it modular to say, I'm going to send those audiences through these channels. And what that allows you to do as a company is to kind of be consistent and coordinated, and not just engaging at the right time, but knowing where other channels somebody else might be engaging on another channel, right? Without that, you're really just operating in what I call a multi-channel type model, right? And where yes, I'm engaging you, Tim, in an email, and I have my sales guys reaching out, but if you're not coordinating where you're engaging and what we're learning along the way,
Sure.
you're not doing a very good job with that personalization that I talked about. So the ABX product, the RevUp ABX product, allows you to kind of start in one channel and expand if you want. So, we don't want to say we're going to do everything. You may have tools. So if you want to go and focus in on how do I optimize my ad, my paid media, then start there. But it has that same foundation that easily allow you to say, I want to leverage that into these other channels and start leveraging the same insights and data to help me optimize my email. So that modular step-by-step approach, so you don't have to buy the whole galactic empire, right, to start. And I think the only other thing that I think is important to think about is, these offerings are really meant to not necessarily replace. It's really about RevUp ABX plus, not RevUp ABX and. And what I mean by that is people already have the Eloquas, the Marketos, the HubSpot, and the different tools. So that's your choice of your system of what I call engagement. Then it can send those audiences right to where you're leveraging those tools, so that it syndicates it to them and you don't have to rip it out and replace it. So we wanted to build it modular. We wanted to build it open. And I think we've had a lot of really early success and feedback in demand for this. And we're seeing that with companies came to us early on, Tim, when we were announcing and putting this together. And many of them were already doing this, right? These are many of our product and capabilities that were disparate. And some of them, and one in particular, a large logistics company, we'll call them, in the US, they had built out that CDP. They had kind of done some things in some of these products that were doing addressable market and total addressable market work. They had been doing some of the work to kind of send to the different tools that they use. And, when I met with them, I was like, wow, you were a RevUp ABX customer before there was even a product out there. They were already kind of leading the way. And I was really excited to see that. It reinforced that where we were going was the right direction. And now that company is very much involved. But we had other companies besides them. We had, a friend of mine I used to work for ends up at the CMO over at a company at Rackspace. They use this amazing kind of tool set to really help optimize their sales channel. And they've seen tremendous success, like improvement in the ability to engage and convert with the sales teams, leveraging the capabilities that they built out initially with our CDP, but leveraging those connectors and those integrations into their sales engagement tools. So, there's a lot of great stories and everybody approaches it their own way. But we're seeing a lot of happy customers who are then wanting to kind of learn and do more with us.
Cool. Well, one of the last questions I have for you is, you just mentioned, the narration of a couple different stories. There's a lot out there. And I'm going to ask you an unfair question. If you had to step outside of yourself and you were to advise a customer to get educated, not just on Dun & Bradstreet, but just to get educated, because you mentioned Marketo, my company uses HubSpot. We sometimes as customers don't even know what's out there to bring these things together. If you were to advise a customer what to do next to get educated, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I try to do myself as a marketing leader is I read a lot. And I read through the different kind of publications that are focused on, the MarTech Today type work that, what are others doing? And I also try to engage with various analysts. Not everybody has that option. And really reading about some of the things that they're doing in their work. So whether it's a wave or a new wave, I want to understand not just what's in market and what I know, but to your point, what are the emerging things that are happening? And what, more importantly, are the capabilities and the use cases that they're trying to address with those things? So it's really going out there, reading the marketing pubs, reading the analysts, meeting with them if you can, help me get educated. And then the third is kind of an obvious one is I try to network. I try to kind of join these teams of other marketing leaders and communities where we kind of share quite a bit. Like, what are you doing? What are, we all have the same challenges. So, reading, analyst, and just good basic sound networking with your group of professional networks, and learning about what they're trying and what they're challenged by. Marketers are always willing to share.
Sure.
And we're not one of those groups that tries to keep everything top secret, right? We want to learn and learn from the mistakes and learn from the successes from each other. So
cool. So how do people learn about Dun & Bradstreet? How do they get educated by you? What do you do to educate your prospective customers?
yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways. One of the things, sales and marketing teams tend to be visual learners. I don't want to box myself in, but since I am one of them, and one of the things that we want to make sure is that we do often videos, we do monthly demo days where you can join and see something. But more importantly, I think having the ability to kind of capture stories of others. So similar to what I do in my networking. So we're in the process of putting a video series together where we're going to kind of talk about, a case study, but right from the person that, had the challenge, right from their experiences. And they need to be short. Like none of us have, as much as I love to read the Forrester, the Gartner stuff, I don't always have the time to read the 5 reports that I want. So sometimes the 5-minute snippets of just testimonials of what others are doing tend to go a long way. So we try to put some of that out there on our web. We also try to be a part of broader events where we are all meeting and congregating. So whether it's coming up at a Dreamforce where we'll participate, hosting our own events, we do webinars. So we try to do it in a more visually engaging way where there's dialogue. That tends to be, at least in the market that we're in, do very well. So all of those types of things are certainly in process, and you can come to our site. We try to promote that. We send it to the people like we talked about, right, that think that, probably would be interested in that. So we don't only just wait for the inbound, but we outbound out into the targeted audiences that we think would be interested in the topics that are relevant to them. And I think that's the key. And it's not just to guess and send, because you're a marketer. There's a lot of things I worry about and care about, but there's certain things that are very much timely and top of my mind that my team, myself are researching. You can get those insights. By intent type data, so that you really get that person at the right time and you send them the right relevant content that they should be interested in.
Yeah. So send our audience somewhere. Where do they need to go to find out more about your company?
Sure. So if you go to dnb.com, the sales and marketing solution area right at the top will give you an understanding of kind of the broad set of things that we do. It's not just this engagement and rev up. We help you to clean and enrich the data that is so important, that fuel into that demand gen engine. So you learn about how we help you to really bring together that data in a unified way, but more importantly, ensure that it's trusted. So go to dnb.com. You'll learn about how we help with that clean and enrichment, the reaching and engaging people with relevance with things like rev up, or Hoovers, which is really targeting that sales audience to kind of go out there and prospect the folks that are in market and most likely to buy from the sellers that are engaging. And those are the 3 kind of core, what I'll call solution platforms, RevUp, ABX, take a look at Hoovers, and then our data management solutions, which involves both our optimizer and our connect offerings. So
awesome.
It's a great place to learn. There's some great assets out there. I encourage people to take a look and see how we can help you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time today, Gino. I appreciate it. It was a great discussion.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you check this out. This will be provided in obviously both an audio and a video platform, and it will be out on the various podcast channels. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tim.